Jason Cozens joins me now, and Justin Urquhart-Stewart is still with us. Buying physical gold on your phone. Wow.
That's right. Well, we all need to fight inflation, don't we?
Gold's been on a tear over the last year or so. It's up above $1,500 an ounce now.
Yeah.
And that's 20% up over the last year. But it's not always that way, is it?
No, I mean, as confidence in fiat currencies go up and down, the price of gold does fluctuate, but it's generally going up. Or should say the confidence in fiat currencies are generally going down. I mean, in my lifetime, the pound, for instance, has lost more than 80% of its purchasing power. I mean, think about that. And that's before all this crazy inflation kicked in. But at the same time, gold's gone up over 500% in its purchasing power.
So when you say fiat currencies, basically you mean paper currencies like the pound,
yes,
the dollar,
right.
the euro, the traditional currencies that we're paid in. What kind of uptake are you seeing in the demand for gold now, the tendency to store money in gold, given that inflation has been rising and most of us think there's a lot more to come? And who are your customers?
So we've seen an absolute huge increase in the number of customers. I mean, over the last month, for instance, we've seen 10,000 new customers join Glint. Yeah. And over the last year, our existing customers have been buying, I think, on average, more than an extra 30% of gold in their platform. But our customers, you know, they're from 18 years old. I think our oldest customer is 93. They are people who, you know, struggle to make ends meet, and they're also wealthy people who've worked hard all their lives and want to be able to save it. But I had an interesting story the other day. I got in a taxi to go to a FinTech awards dinner. And the taxi driver said, he said FinTech, yeah, and he named a few different I named a few FinTechs.
Financial technology.
And without saying anything to him about Glint, he turned around to me, he said, I've got one for you. He said Glint. So savvy taxi drivers as well.
I mean, OK, your name's getting out there. I could counter that. It's a journalistic kind of truism that when your taxi driver's telling you to buy something, it's a bubble. It means sell.
Look, I think the bubble is definitely the fiat currency. I mean, if I was to tell you that in the last year, depending how you measure the creation of money, in the US, for instance, they've printed between 20 and 40% of all US dollars in existence.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
They haven't physically printed the. They've expanded the central bank's balance sheet using computer keystrokes, and
that's right.
But I totally accept your point. It's called quantitative easing.
That's right. That's a phrase to complicate it all, and
it's called modern monetary theory.
Yes.
Haven't you heard about it?
Right.
Which, funnily enough, has the same initials as Magic Money Tree.
And of course, central banks can't print gold, and you know the government's not going to do anything about this. The only way we can fight inflation is we take control ourselves. We need to put ourselves on our own personal gold standard. And, of course, we all know that gold is security, and Glint is its key, because apart from just buying gold with Glint, you can also spend it. So when I finished that taxi journey, I paid him with gold using my Glint MasterCard. I felt fantastic. The taxi driver, of course...
Sort of thing James Bond would do, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You won't get the part.
Channel your own...
A bearded James Bond. That's what Justin's holding out for. Justin, we're not here to give financial advice, of course. None of us are regulated to give financial advice on television, nor is GB News. We should make that absolutely clear. We're discussing a market trend, a process and a product. But what do you think of gold as an investment in the long term? $1,500 for gold.
Well, I mean, you look at look at the main asset classes that we've got and see how they behave over time. If you left out gold, you'd be actually finding yourself really quite short in dangerous times. So you need to have a proportion there. The problem with gold is, for long-term investing necessarily, is compounding with dividends, because you get the price goes up and down, longer-term the value will be there, but you need other things as well. I don't mean gold mining companies either.
Because you don't get interest on your gold holding. You don't get dividends on your gold holdings the way you do with cash or with equities.
And that compounds up. That doesn't mean you don't have gold, but you just have it as part of those asset classes, because you don't know what's going to happen next.
But I would
the gold bug's coming back. Here he comes. He's coming
I'd
here.
say, look, gold isn't, to me, an investment. It's just money. If you put your cash under the bed, it doesn't earn any interest. The only reason money, for instance, earns any interest in the good old days when you did get interest was that you put your money at risk. Whenever you put your money, your hard-earned savings, at risk, then you have the potential to make money or lose money. Gold is simply money. And we've made it everyday money for everybody out there.
Tell us a little bit about the app itself.
Yes.
You can just download it on the App Store. Am I buying physical gold, or am I buying what we call a derivative of gold, a claim?
No derivatives. We set out right from the very beginning to make sure that you are getting allocated gold that you legally own. It's got nothing to do with Glint. It is yours. And that's
But it doesn't
important.
physically move, does it? It's in a safe somewhere, and you have an ownership claim on it.
You own some of that gold. You own that gold. It's stored in a vault in Switzerland, run by Brinks. It's insured by Lloyd's of London. Glint is
As in the Brinks bullion, Robbie.
Well, yeah.
There's a grand old name, isn't there?
Yeah, it's yours, and it's very secure. We can't, and unlike, for instance, cryptocurrency exchanges, we haven't yet found a way to dematerialize gold into electrons and hack it out of the vault. So
Are you convinced?
Well, I mean, yes, you've got to. Are you regulated?
Yes, we're regulated by the Financial Conduct
that's
Authority.
a key element of this, because you do find some.
It's quite a punchy question to ask on live television.
Well, because you look at some of the adverts going on, people are seeing adverts now for all
Yeah.
sorts of things, such as, send in your gold and I'll send you the money. You think, oh, hang on a second. So people need to go to the respectable, responsible people.
But
That's good to
we
hear.
do our due diligence. Do you think it'd be on the money unless he was a pucker chap, regulated,
Absolutely.
all the bells and whistles, everything,
We just need to make sure that everyone knows that.
everything in place?
I mean, I've got to make it very clear: the FCA do not regulate gold itself, but they
no,
regulate
of
our
course,
business.
yes.
And we're
and you are a broker of gold. They don't
Well,
regulate a commodity.
It's a multi-currency payments app, so you can buy gold, as you said, save it, be able to send it to each other, as I did with the cabbie, and be able to spend it too with the MasterCard. So, again, money, hard money especially, should be something you'd be able to save and spend.
You know what? I get the feeling that we're going to be talking a lot more about gold here on The Money and on GB News generally as inflation cranks up. Jason Cozens, been fabulous to have you here on the show.
Thank you very much.